Welcome to the BioAlabama Faces of Science series, where we, the BioAlabama interns, chat with bioscience professionals about their journeys from academia to their careers. I'm Abby Rusi, and today I'm talking with Courtney Valerio, project manager with the Clevenger Lab at Hudson Alpha.
Hello. Um, Hi, Courtney. To
Hello,
get this whole interview started, would you mind introducing yourself, what your current role is, and what organization you work for?
my name is Courtney Valerio. I'm a project manager with the Clevenger Lab at Hudson Alpha.
Sweet. And then would you briefly describe what Hudson Alpha is and what the Clevenger Lab is?
So Hudson Alpha has a huge campus, and there's a lot of different organizations that help make up Hudson Alpha and that also work on that campus. For the Clevenger Lab specifically, we have an interest in peanut research. And so I help facilitate that and work in the lab and help make the genome libraries that allow us to do our research.
It's super cool. So, for your job as a project manager, what does a normal workday look like?
Well, it can change a lot, but for the most part, one of the main things I'm doing is helping make genome libraries. So for the Clevenger Lab specifically, we have an interest in peanut plants because they're nutritious. They can be grown in the US and many different countries. And one of the things that is a problem with peanuts is that they can be susceptible to a fungus that produces aflatoxin, which is carcinogen. So anytime a farmer goes to sell their crops, it's tested for this toxin, and if it's over a certain level, then the crop gets thrown out. So the farmer doesn't get their money, which especially, if it's one of the things we're interested in is whether it's linked to drought, and if plants that are more drought resistant are less susceptible to this fungus. That would obviously help farmers in the US, and it would help a lot of farmers in other countries, and then help provide something that's filled with a lot of protein and nutritious that's affordable to other countries and to people as well. And it would make such a huge difference and have a huge impact in that.
Yeah, well, that's super cool. So I'm curious now, how did you find yourself in this role? And we'll get into a lot of the background a little bit later, but what was kind of the general arc that got you, working with peanuts?
Well, it's an interesting arc. I got a bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Mary Washington in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And during that time, I ended up getting an internship with the FBI. And I actually started my career in forensics and working in that. So I did that for several years, working as a forensic examiner for trace evidence. And I really love that. I can tell you many things related to hairs, fibers that nobody would ever need to know, but that I find fascinating to this day and interesting. But I realized after several years of doing that I wasn't feeling as passionate about it and was trying to figure out why, and was interested in finding something that was a bit more hands-on, that felt like it had more direct and larger impact. Not that that work wasn't important, it's very important, but just wasn't what I needed in terms of feeling fulfilled in my career. So in evaluating that, I started looking around, and I did not know that Hudson Alpha existed because I was happily working my other job, but I came across Hudson Alpha, and I think that it's an amazing organization. There's so many different focuses here. So obviously I'm in an agricultural group, and there's a lot of agricultural research that gets done here. But what drew me to this job and interested me was I loved genetics when I was in school. I'm very interested in sustainability, and helping to do research that might make plants more drought resistant would obviously impact the environment as well. And to hopefully be able to provide some kind of food to people who could really use that, and that would be affordable, and to help farmers be able to have crops that they can sell and don't get wiped out completely by these different diseases would be a big deal. So I'm happy because I'm on my feet a lot more, whereas the other job was a lot of being stationary and looking through a microscope. So very important things, and I definitely have skills that carried over, but also very different jobs.
Yeah, that's they sound super different. But I'm curious, like now, so you said you kind of developed this, I don't know, changed how you saw forensics and you wanted something different. But what so far being in this role with the Clevenger Lab, what's been your favorite part of like working,
Um, it's
if you could pick one?
it's hard because a lot of my favorite parts that I was looking at were things that I loved about my old job too that I wanted to
Mhm.
keep. So one of the things that I really enjoy is collaboration and being able to work with other researchers, other scientists, and there's definitely the opportunity to do that. So within my group, I constantly have resources of people that I can talk to. Other labs have been super helpful, especially with our group just starting out, to be able to go over and ask for help or ask to borrow something is really nice. So I definitely enjoy those aspects. And I really like that Hudson Alpha has a huge outreach program where interns are coming through and being able to work with students, and hopefully have future opportunities to do more of that. But I'm really enjoying the genetic side and being more hands-on and doing more reactions and creating more markers. So
Yeah, that's super great. And then the flip side to that question is, have there been any challenges, or what's been your biggest challenge in your position?
um, yes. So I mean, I like challenges, so none of them are anything bad, but it's more just figuring out how to adapt and be flexible. A lot of this stuff I'm learning, and even since I learned genetics, obviously it's a very fast growing field that's constantly developing and changing. So just trying to learn more as much as I can. And especially my last job, I was an expert in that. So it's kind of this learning curve of realizing, oh man, I really need to, I want to catch up. I want to be at that level again. And so I think it's just trying to get the lab up and running, learning new protocols and trying to get them to work smoothly and adapting them if I need to do a change for something. For example, I have a protocol where my DNA to start with was a lower input in terms of how many nanograms per microliter.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to change the protocol a little bit to see if I can get that to work better at the end since I'm starting with a lower amount. So it's just the little things like that of figuring out,
Yeah.
well, this didn't work. Is there something I can do that will make this work? Why isn't it working? There's a lot of problem solving, and that's a lot different than my other job. So
Yeah. Well, that's actually super cool. Uh, just having to mitigate like all of those challenges and kind of overcome, things as genetics are changing. I'm curious now going a bit into your past, and you touched on this a little bit. Like, what did your academic journey look like?
my
Kind of.
academic journey was getting a bachelor's degree in biology.
Mhm.
For a little bit, I was doing secondary education for biology as well, but
Yeah.
I got interested into the forensics and fell into that. So I was very fortunate that I got that internship and was able to step into that career path during my senior year of college and was
Mhm.
able to continue that after I graduated. And then
Yeah.
I was really lucky that I was able to find jobs there and apply to jobs that kind of were appealing. I still am very passionate about forensics. I could watch forensic files for the rest of my life and nothing else. Like I still love forensics and love that
Yeah.
field, that work, and think it's so important and interesting. Um, but I'm very lucky that I kind of fell into that, and that's led me to where I am today.
Yeah, that's super cool. So, professionally, did you really just go right into forensics and then hop to Hudson Alpha?
Yes.
That's Did you have any other roles like along that journey, or did you like grow in any of them?
So when I started, so obviously I started as an intern
Mhm.
for the FBI for forensics. When I did that, it was unpaid in the beginning, but obviously super valuable experience to learn that world, to get into forensics, to
Yeah.
be able to have people to learn from who obviously have a lot more experience than me. And then from there, I started as a physical scientist for trace evidence. So that involved processing the evidence and collecting any
Mhm.
hairs and fibers and doing some analysis of fabric and cordage and how it's constructed. And then after doing that position for a couple of years, I moved up and went through an extensive training program to become a forensic examiner. So that was actually analyzing the hairs, fibers, and fabric and cordage collected from the evidence and trying to find associations between those to link different devices together or different cases
Okay.
together. So I had that kind of career arc over there. And I also was responsible and helped train a lot of the new employees that came in. So any new physical scientists, I helped with their training program, and some of the new forensic examiners, I helped with their training program as well. So
Okay. Well, that's super cool. So obviously with the big career shift, you've undergone that big change. Reflecting back on it, are there any big lessons you kind of take away from going from school to forensics to peanut genetics?
there's definitely a lot of lessons. I'm so thankful for the path that I've had and how I've ended up to where I am. That my previous career definitely taught me a lot about um, being very organized, taking very extensive notes, because obviously you're working with evidence. You need to take detailed notes. You need to be very careful about contamination and very aware of that, very conscientious. So a
Mhm.
lot of that carried over. And then I think just in general, and this is just for career experience as well, but I had the opportunity to participate in some leadership book clubs, and am very big on just personal development, professional development, and leading from where you can stand. I feel like I
Yeah.
learned a lot from doing those and just being in a work environment and working with people who are different and having so much diversity and people who communicate differently. Maybe somebody communicates better through email or in person.
Mhm.
And just kind of learning those skills and learning how to communicate and work well with others has been huge.
Yeah. Well, that's super cool. And then one last question. If you had a piece of advice to pass along to students or young professionals, what advice would that be, if you can think of anything?
So much advice. So I I definitely am a big fan of internships. I think
Mhm.
if you can find one and are lucky enough to get one, it's an amazing opportunity to help get your foot into actually seeing a career and being able to actually walk those in those shoes per per se,
Yeah.
and to see and get an idea of if it's something you're passionate about, if it's something you want to participate in. And I think it's a great way to find a mentor. And I highly recommend having a mentor, having people who are more experienced than you. I think that there's two types that are important to have. I think that you should have one that's in your field and can offer you work advice and have that experience, and then just also maybe knows the company better, can help offer you resources or suggest contacts for you to reach out to if you're struggling. And then I also think it's important to find a way to have a mentor who's maybe in a different field and has a different background than you, because that's also really valuable too, sometimes having that perspective and being able to talk through and get a different position on maybe how to communicate differently or a different mindset on how to approach a problem that you wouldn't normally have. So I highly recommend that, and just always learning, and that it's never too late to make a change. If you find yourself in a position like me where you still love what you did and are thankful for the experience, but realize maybe this isn't exactly what I want to do anymore, and for
Mhm.
some reason I'm not feeling fulfilled anymore, you have valuable skills that are applicable, and you can find something else. And I think a lot of people are worried about doing that and end up feeling stuck. So don't be stuck. Keep learning. Keep bettering yourself. Have
Yeah.
mentors, and just try to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Well, that was super cute. I really I feel like that's great advice that anybody can take to heart at any time. So, with all of that, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to meet with me. It was really great to meet you, Courtney.
You
Um,
can
and I hope
too.
you have a great rest of your day. So, thank you.
Thank you.